Welcome back to a reading corner. Today we'll be covering the duelist Hawkeye. Been waiting to use him for a while because I've been hearing conflicting ideas of whether he's good or not. I mean, he's certainly effective when I'm getting KO'd by a bastard across the map, but anyway, I'll get into him later. And now let's go through his lore segment, Going South for the Winter. All Hawkeye knew when he got on board the Quinjet was he was heading out on a solo rescue mission and it involved Hydra. That suited him. Extended mission prep wasn't really his style. You only needed a certain amount of information to take a smart approach. Over preparation could dull your senses, keep you from being aware and responsive when things changed in the field. As they always did. No plan survived contact with me for long. For the first hour or so, as the craft arrowed south from a helicarrier stationed just above of the big island of Hawaii, Clint kept to himself, watching the water go by. He'd never been a sparkling conversationalist, so silence suited him. "Are you doing back there, stranger?" Agent 13 shouted back from her seat at the controls. Clint had nearly forgotten she was there after 2 hours or so staring into the endless blue expanse of the Pacific. Clint decided it was time to make some conversation. So, we headed to Antarctica or what?" "Bingo," Agent 13 said. "Although it doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you go south from Hawaii, you either hit New Zealand or Antarctica." "Never said I was a genius, but I can read a map." Clint got up from his seat and started arranging his gear on the work table. Bows, arrows, swords, body armor, comms equipment, night vision goggles, emergency fuel rations. Then he broke open the kit bag with his name on it and found cold weather gear. "So let me guess, you want me to stop Hydra poaching dinosaurs in the Savage Land?" "You wouldn't need cold weather gear for that." "No word until I got there, unless you're going to fly me to the border and risk Sauron sending a million pterodactyls after his Quinjet." "No Savage Land for you, Hawkeye," Agent 13 said. "We're in fact going to Ross Island, which is only technically an island because it's connected to the mainland of Antarctica by a 2-mile fixed sheet of ice." "Yeah, the Ross Ice Shelf. I've heard of it." "The target is a Hydra base on Ross Island. More specifically, the target is Bucky Barnes." "Don't tell me," Clint said, as a cold knot formed in the pit of his stomach. Bucky had worked so hard to get free of the brainwashing he'd suffered after World War II. What a terrible thing it would be if he'd been mind-controlled again. Clint thought hard about whether he'd be able to follow through on a mission to eliminate Bucky Barnes. He'd done worse during his Ronin years, but he'd also left Ronin behind. He was Hawkeye again. He was an Avenger. "It's not what you think, judging by the expression on your face," Agent 13 said. 3 days ago, Barnes was sent to infiltrate and gather intel about Hydra activity inside Charteris Mount. Infiltration was successful, and we got some brief communications from Bucky during the mission's first few hours. But as of 8 hours after infiltration, comms were interrupted, and we presume he's been a Hydra captive ever since. Anything could have happened to Bucky in 3 days, Clint thought. But he was tough as anybody, and if there was a chance to get him out alive, that's what Clint would do. "Why Charteris Mount?" "Well, because it's tunneled into Erebus Ice Shelf, but Hydra probably also lacks the mythological associations." "You gonna make me ask?" "I thought you'd never ask," she said. "In Greek mythology, Erebus was the son of Chaos and one of the primordial gods. Also, that's the name the Greeks gave to the gate between the world of the living and the underworld." "Yeah, Hydra would go for that." "Behind every myth is a bit of truth. Some of Bucky's comms were pretty scrambled, but we have a basic idea that the base is built on a much older set of ruins. It's likely there's an occult angle." "An occult angle?" Clint repeated. "So, like, I should expect to run into monsters from the Greek underworld?" "That's all I can tell you. Also, they're doing some kind of super soldier research. Bucky was loud and clear about that." Clint thought about this while he got just the edge he wanted on his twin swords. He sheathed them and selected his arrowheads, going with a standard assortment of explosive, non-lethal, and ordinary bladed tips. He felt a pre-mission calm descend over him, and that was good. That hadn't happened much while he was running. "So," Agent 13 said from the cockpit, "you ready? For this mission, or to be an Avenger again?" She chucked him on the shoulder. "Once an Avenger, always an Avenger. I was talking about the mission." Once an Avenger, always an Avenger. Clint wasn't sure about that. Then again, even when he was an Avenger, he hadn't always felt like one. It wasn't easy feeling like you were an equal member of a team when all you could do was shoot a bow and the other team members could call lightning or lift 100 tons. If he was being honest with himself, that was why he'd left. That was why he became Ronin. The thing was, once you'd been a hero, an Avenger, And once you understood how powerful it could be to change things, to make things better with your own hands, you couldn't just stop caring. Or maybe some people could, but Clint couldn't. So he stopped being Hawkeye and he adopted a new moniker, Ronin, a samurai with no master. He kept an eye out for situations that might need his help. He trained in some new ways of fighting. He reinvented himself. For a couple of years, he'd been doing things the Avengers would never have noticed. Street level, local things. More like Spider-Man might do. Then that expanded into bigger scale operations against drug kingpins, human traffickers, the kind of people normal law enforcement couldn't get to and the superiors didn't notice because they were too busy fighting Thanos or Dormammu or Doctor Doom. Ronin travelled the world, by and large, and he made a better place. There were a lot of people alive because of Ronin, but there were also a lot of people that never got back up. Bad people? Sure. But one night, in a mission high above the smoggy sprawl of Istanbul, where he just eliminated an arms trafficker and his entire armed retinue of maybe 20 bodyguards, Clint realised he'd stopped holding himself to any standard beyond what he thought was right. He was very close to going off the rails, becoming a pure vigilante nut like Frank Castle. It was only a few steps from there to the kind of deluded villain whom thought he was doing the world a favour, a vulture or killmonger. He needed people around him to keep him on track, and the only people who could do that were the Avengers. So he'd come home, picking up the Hawkeye mantle yet again, but with a few changes, traces of Ronin that he would always carry with him. Maybe someday he would be free of the guilt he still carried over some of the things he'd done. He'd never hurt anyone he considered innocent, but in the heat of battle, sometimes you couldn't tell who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The moral clarity of a fight against Hydra was something Clint Barton badly needed. Okay, we're 5 minutes out. Time for last minute notes. You'll find a vehicle stashed near your loading site. Its beacon will activate once it detects you on the ground. Hope you left the keys in the ignition, Clint said. Ignoring him, she went on. There is a large hangar bay with several doors built into the flank of a mountain. That's the only obvious approach without using demolitions to get into one of the lower access shafts. Intel recommends you stay on the upper levels because, honestly, we have no idea what's down below. Monsters, Clint said. Got it. Agent 13 shrugged. Probably not, but you never know. Get in, get Barnes, get out. If Barnes is... She hesitated. If Barnes can't be recovered, your priority is to get the info and get yourself out. You mean if he's dead? Just say it. Her eyes flashed. Yes, if he's dead, she said, biting off each word. Turning her back on him, she went back to the cockpit. Clint stayed where he was, in the back of a cabin, alone with his thoughts, which was never the healthiest place for him to be. What if Bucky Barnes was gone? Again. Mind-controlled, again. Deep inside, Clint felt a Ronin like cold certainty that would know what to do. No, Bucky would survive. Hawkeye would find him, not Ronin. Hawkeye. Tomorrow morning, they would both be watching the sunrise as Agent 13 piloted them back towards Hawaii. We're in the drop zone, Agent 13 said calmly. Well, open the cargo door and you'll go. Go, Clint said. The Antarctic wind stole the air from his lungs. Clint steadied himself, got a bead on the ground, and jumped. So that was the lore segment, which is basically detailing how Hawkeye led a rescue mission to grab the Winter Soldier from Hydra. I think I should probably cover Winter Soldier next to cap off that little train of narrative. But gameplay-wise, he is an interesting one. Usually in a game that gives me a bow and arrow, I'm pretty good. This one, however, it's... Give me enough time to line up my shot, I will be able to start headshotting dudes with a quickness. Problem is, I am a squishy little duelist. I will literally fold like tissue paper. Maybe it's a case of I need more sessions with Hawkeye to get some practice in and get better at him, but as of right now, he is not my favourite duelist. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this little lore segment. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.